Welcome back into the Dead Arm Sports Podcast. Josh and Jill coming at you live on we're recording Tuesday, live on a Wednesday, hump day for the listening out there. Unless you turn it into YouTube, which appreciate it. Then you get to see us a day early on Tuesday. Have a fun episode for you, more of a recap, have some NFL news, March Madness, and then, of course, golf. Going to have our big ML.
No, wait, what is that's the golf noise.
Going to have our big MLB preview for you tomorrow, but wanted to get the MLB juices flowing a little bit here, Gel, for you in our question of the day today. And we haven't had MLB expansion in quite some time. I mean, you had Expos coming over to the Nationals and then the Rays.
That was
and
an
Diamondbacks.
expansion.
Yeah, that was just a transfer, but you had Diamondbacks and Devil Rays back in the late 90s. And
by the way, that's what they should go back to.
They should go back to the Devil Rays.
The name, the Devil Rays. That's so much better.
Back to the Stingray logo too. But
hell yeah, and the rainbow colors and everything. Oh man,
right.
Good old days.
Know, MLB, it's going to be inevitable. It sounds like they are going to be expanding at some point here in the near future once Oakland figures out if they're going to be staying there with a new stadium deal or not. But I want to know, where would you like to see two new teams come in, assuming that they would add two teams to make it even and not have an odd number of teams?
Well, I thought you were going to ask me if I want expansion, and the answer is hell to the no. There's already every season, basically 4+ quadruple A teams in the A's. The Reds this year are going to basically be like a quadruple A team. The Pirates for a while now. I mean,
2015, I think, was their last good season, and that wild card loss to the Cubs.
I think they're some of these teams, their entire payrolls are like $30 million. It's like this. Why do we need to add two more teams? There's already numerous owners that aren't willing to pay up for competitive, and they get the same revenue share that a lot of these teams do, at least when it comes to media rights stuff, at least the national media rights. So the deal that ESPN and Fox has with MLB, that money gets spread out equally amongst all 30 teams. There's legitimate revenue sharing in the MLB. We shouldn't allow these teams like the Pirates to be able to get away with having a $35 million payroll. We need to have, I don't think that you're asking too much to have a $95-100 million salary floor so that you don't have teams just actively tanking to this level where, I mean, you mentioned the last time the Pirates made the World World Series. God, that's been since the 80s.
Like Roberto Clemente.
Yeah. The playoffs in 8 years or 7 years. Baseball's one of those leagues where you can kind of flip it around fast if you just spend a little bit of money on free agency and make some minor improvements. And now they're expanding playoffs, so there's even less of an excuse. Anyways, getting to the finality of my point, why do we need to add two more teams? I guess I get that you want to add more, new revenue new revenue, because that, you get expansion fee, or, you have to pay an expansion fee. So every team gets, or every owner gets, $1.5 billion or $2 billion or something like that from, I don't know where that money comes from, but there's some sort of expansion. Wait, that number is probably way off. It's definitely way off.
Yeah, it's just saying the millions.
I think it's like 100 million or something like that. Not 1 billion. That would be nice. Then of course they would say, let's expand to all 50 states and however many countries. But no, I just don't think that it's necessary. Why don't we find new ownership for the teams that already exist? I mean, we've seen, we look at the transformation that the Mets had. They had cheap ownership, and then one of the richest people in the world, Steve Cohen, buys them, and he's just like, fuck it, I'm going to go pay for Verlander, I'm paying for Scherzer. I'm going and getting Lindor, and I'm going to sign him to a massive deal. Like, that's the kind of ownership that we want. So rather than more teams, we don't need additional mediocrity. Okay, to your question. I think Nashville would be a great one. Middle of the country. I mean, they would fit in really well in like the AL Central, for example, where although they would probably have to do some division realignment to make 2 extra teams happen.
Yeah, they'd probably have to switch it to like 4 divisions per conference,
right?
Like 4 teams, but yeah,
kind of basically the same thing that the NFL is doing.
Yep.
And I mean, you could. I think Nashville would be a great one. It's a growing city. It's already, it's a sweet city. And doesn't, the Tennessee college baseball team is sick. They're one of the best in the country, and they have been for years. Vanderbilt
yep.
as well. So that Tennessee region, they love their college baseball. Why wouldn't they love MLB? So I think that's probably the number 1 city that would be on my list of top cities. And number 2, I mean, Austin is kind of a similar type of city, but Texas already has 2 MLB teams. Do we really need to add a third? Are there enough people in Austin? Maybe, with all these tech companies coming in from California, that population is growing. Do we need a third city in a hot ass Texas during the middle of the summer? Probably not. So let's go to the opposite part of North America, and let's bring a team back to Montreal, baby.
Okay.
Let's give them the Expos back.
All right. I can dig that. Get another Canadian team up there to compete with the Blue Jays.
Or throw. I mean, I want to say Vancouver. I just don't know if the population can support it, but
yeah.
Because Vancouver's maybe my favorite city I've ever been to in terms of, just for visiting for a short period of time. But we know Montreal loves their baseball. The reason with the Expos, I don't really know the reason that they left. It might have been some sort of, weird owner politics kind of a thing. But Montreal wants that team back. So I'd love to see them. I'd love to see the return of the Expos.
Yeah, no, that'd be pretty sweet. I had Nashville down on my list too. I just think you've seen success with the Predators, the Titans. Nashville soccer team was an expansion team a couple years back in the MLS. So they're capable. They're a growing city, like you had mentioned, that's able to support a baseball team. The Brewers still have their AAA affiliate there. I know it was Brewers
Nashville Sounds.
Okay. Wasn't sure if they had switched over or not, but they've got AAA there.
That's the one that they've hung on to.
Okay.
I feel like they've changed up some of their other affiliate, like their AA team, like 5 times. Okay. But the Nashville Sounds are still under the Brewers umbrella.
Nice. Yeah, same with the Cubs. The Iowa Cubs have been there forever. And then the Tennessee Smokies, too, their AA team over in Knoxville. So, but no, not Nashville, I think. And I mean, that's on the short list, too. I think if we do see expansion, that one's almost for sure going to happen. And then that second city's kind of up for debate. And I like your Vancouver call there, Joe. I'm moving up to that portion of the country, and I think Portland would be a really sweet city for it. The only issue, you're going to need a retractable roof because they get a lot of rain and we don't need any rain out, so you want to have that nice summer air there as well. But you also
that's similar. That's just like Seattle. I mean, exactly. Similar, pretty similar type of climate there. Obviously, the Portland Timbers are one of the most supported MLS teams in the country, so
Blazers get a good turnout. So
yeah, right.
I just think too, it'd be so nice for the Mariners to have a city that's closer proximity to them right now, because what's the closest city to them? San Francisco. That's however many hour flight
the
down.
Closest team in their,
not even
the closest team in their division,
Oakland, I guess,
would be Oakland.
Yeah,
which is soon to probably be Vegas. It sounds like, based on current rumors, and not really even rumors. I mean, comments that Rob Manfred has made, saying that's kind of the plan. So, but I guess Vegas, LA Angels, but imagine having to make that flight to Houston constantly. Like, yeah, that sucks.
No, exactly. And it'd give them an instant rival too. I mean, the Timbers Sounders rivalry is intense. Right. So you'd have an instant baseball rivalry with the Portland team coming in. So maybe you just I know they have, I think it's a single A team or like a Madison Mallards type college team, the Portland Pickles.
The
So maybe
Pickles.
let's just bring that over to the MLB. Let's go with the Pickles.
Portland Pickles.
I love it.
Shout out. Not a hashtag, not a sponsor.
But could be.
Let's go, baby.
Send us some
All
gear,
ears.
we'll
Hey,
rock it.
I'm supporting the Beloit Sky Carp for you YouTube viewers. Nice single A Miami Marlins affiliate because I like the logo. I'm here. We're here for any support from the Sky Carp as well.
Also talking to you, Rocket City Trash Pandas. I'll rock your hat. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Go to YouTube, type in Dead Arm Sports into that search bar. Subscribe, click the bell there. That way you know when our live episodes drop. We monitor that chat, so you can ask us any questions during our live feed. Otherwise, if you miss out on that, send us any questions to our social handles at Dead Arm Sports, at DasGel, that's at DASJEL, or else I can be found at DasJPEC, that's at DASJPEC. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot of that written review, and we will swag you up for free. Going to kick this off with some NFL news. I know you got the timeline over there, Gel, of events, but yesterday on Monday, owners, GMs, coaches are all having their meetings this week, and Lamar had tweeted out, really haven't had a ton of news out of his camp, but essentially tweeted out on March 2nd, he asked the Ravens for a trade, came prior to the Ravens giving him that restricted tag, non-tender tag. But what's further with that timeline, Gel? And then what are your thoughts on this and timing of this?
Yeah, so this all kind of, like you mentioned, this all came out, what was it? I don't know, sometime late last, or was it yesterday? Monday, the 27th. Lamar sent out a tweet in the morning saying that he had requested a trade on March 2nd from the Ravens, essentially saying that he doesn't feel that what they're offering is what he's worth. And, you know, he loves the fans, as every departing athlete always says. I love the fans. He said, Baltimore Flock Nation, or Ravens Flock Nation, love you guys. I'll still continue to support the city of Baltimore with my charity efforts, et cetera, et cetera. But ultimately, this organization doesn't value me to what I feel that I'm worth. And I'm paraphrasing 100% here. So this is not a quote, but yeah, so that, and he made it known in that tweet that he had requested a trade on March 2nd. So we're almost a month now into that trade request being officially filed with the team. March 7th, 5 days later, the Ravens, that's when they applied the non-exclusive franchise tag that allows the Ravens to negotiate with other teams. And it comes with a significantly lower dollar amount. Right now, if he were to stay with the Ravens, his 2023 salary would be hovering around $32 million. If it was the exclusive franchise tag, in which there is no negotiation of, no ability to negotiate for him, his franchise or his salary would be about $42 million. Fast forward to that Monday when he sent out that tweet. John Harbaugh starts his press conference at these coach and owners meetings at 9:35 a.m. Eastern time. Lamar sends out his tweet, making it publicly known that he had requested a trade at 9:38 a.m. 3 minutes later.
It's okay though, because the press people don't have their phones on them, right? To know
of course not.
Happened.
Adam Schefter has two phones with him when he's on the set with NFL Live. Like, that guy's a maniac. So, of course, Jim Harbaugh gets blindsided with, hey, did you see Lamar's tweet? Of course he hadn't. This was done on purpose when he was getting asked questions. Hey, did you see Lamar Jackson had tweeted out and made it publicly known that there was a trade request? He's like, haven't seen the tweet, but, really hoping that Lamar sticks around, blah, blah, blah. I don't really, John Harbaugh's not the subject of, or the talk of the subject here, but yeah, I mean, ultimately Lamar, like I said, made that official trade request. We've seen this a lot in the NBA as of late. Whether it's Kyrie requesting a trade, now he's on like his 4th team in 3 years or something.
Harden.
He's never happy. James Harden's requesting trades. Ben Simmons is requesting trades. And a lot of these trades, they don't end up working out. Like there's a reason that I think these teams are willing to deal these players because they're like, hey, they're not bought in. They're not into our culture. And then they go to a new team, and especially evident with Kyrie, he just doesn't gel with his new team either. That's why he's continuously requesting trades. So I guess ultimately my question is, and I think that there's a feeling of kind of entitlement with some of these MLB or NBA players continuing to ask for these trade requests. We've seen this now with Aaron Rodgers. He's basically saying like, I'm done in Green Bay. My intent is to play for the Jets. I don't know if he made an official trade request, but he has an attitude of entitlement to himself with his comments, with his attitude, with his generally being, I wouldn't even say passive aggressive, pretty much making it known like, yeah, this is what we have to do to keep me. I think that there's a sense of entitlement. Now, Lamar Jackson, he obviously feels entitled to a Deshaun Watson plus type of contract. Hey, they're not going to meet it. I got to bounce to be able to get my money. And I think that there could be some sort of entitlement there. Do you have any fear that the NFL and the players, the stars within the NFL could start having a little bit too much of an entitled type of feeling, and we might be seeing more activity going forward and kind of shitty attitudes going forward, similar to the NBA, and it'll become even more transactional of a league?
It's definitely seemed like it's trending up a little bit, but
Russell Wilson, Seattle the year before as well.
Yeah. And we'd had rumors there for a couple of years though. And I look at it too, though. I think that Aaron Rodgers versus Lamar, yes, I think they both do feel entitled to different things. Aaron still wants to play. The Packers want to see what they have in Jordan Love. So I think there's a mutual thing there as far as why he's getting traded. The Packers are ready to move on. Aaron wants to move on to another team, where Lamar, it just comes down to money. He thinks he's worth a certain amount of money. The Ravens do not feel that he's worth a certain amount of money, which Lamar is an interesting specimen because he doesn't fit the normal quarterback mold that you see of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. He is a running quarterback. He's not that great of a passer. Yes, he's fine. He's solid. He's a good passer, but he's not a great elite passer that you see in some of these huge franchise quarterbacks that are getting just unbelievable amount of money. So I just think that it's a little bit different there. And the Ravens are just sitting right now not wanting to pay him that money. And I don't blame them. If you think, you look at, I think we talked about this last week with Cam Newton. And Cam Newton, yes, he was awesome, but he fell off very quick. And we haven't seen a running quarterback being able to sustain an elite level of play for a long period of time, which I think the Ravens don't want to commit all that money to Lamar because he's been hurt the last couple of years. He's missed a lot of games. And why would you want to pay somebody all that money?
And he's going to be missing games in out of the last 22 games, he's missed 10. That's like 40%. If my math is on point there.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah, I think. But so I 45%. Do see a little bit. Yeah,
even worse.
So I do see a little bit of a trend, but I think it's been more so in regards to contract and not people in the NBA where they're just like, I just don't want to play for this team anymore. I want to go somewhere else. The NFL still to me seems money, and it's all at the base of it money related for the most part. Again, Aaron Rodgers is a little bit of an outlier where he still wants to play and they're going to be moving in a different direction.
The Aaron Rodgers thing this year, I wouldn't consider entitlement. I think you're 100% right. This is a mutual.
Previous years, though,
this is a mutual agreement that like, hey, it's time to move on. Green Bay obviously wants to move into the Love. Hopefully, the Love what do you call it?
The lovely era.
There we go. Where and they obviously want to make that move, and Aaron, obviously there's no reason he would want to be there if he feels like they want to move off of him. So, but the year before, I mean, he's threatening retirement. It's just this player empowerment which I'm fine with. I'm totally fine with it. But the worry, at least, in the NBA is like, wait, Kyrie's where now? He used to be one of the biggest stars in the league. And it's like, well, shit, now he's on what? He went to Cleveland. He went to Boston. They sucked in. He sucked with Boston, went to the Nets. Now he's with the Mavs, and he's on the last year of his deal. So he's going to be on his 5th team.
Yeah.
At the start
like
of next year.
James Harden, same thing.
Yeah. He's talking. He demanded
teams.
out of Houston, went to the Nets, demanded out of
he was originally with
and
Oklahoma City too, before he was in Houston.
Well, that was free
agency, but yeah.
And that was like a long time ago. He did spend like 5 good years in Houston, but he went from Houston, demanded a trade out of Oklahoma City. That's right, because he wanted the bag. Demands a trade out of Philly, or out of gotta keep calling it New Jersey, out of Brooklyn to Philly. And now now there's rumors that he might want to trade back to Houston after this season. Like, and a lot of times these guys get what they want. It's not very often that you see somebody demand a trade request and you're like, well, no, we have your rights. We're going to hang on to you because you signed a contract, and this is a two-way contract. This isn't hey, we're just going to pay you all the money that you want and you get everything that you want. Like, we as a team, we have rights as well, and we're going to exercise them. That's pretty rare, which, I mean, I understand that you don't want a disgruntled employee on your staff, especially a player that's making that kind of money and has that type of responsibility. But at the same time, like, we are trying to put together a team that's going to win a title. We want you around so that we can do that. And we technically, I mean, you want to sit out, go ahead, like Le'Veon Bell did with the Steelers. And I don't think it's ironic that the Steelers are one of the more well-run teams in all of sports, that they said, no, Le'Veon, we're going to stick to our guns. We're going to tag you or whatever and not give you this massive contract that you want. If you want to sit out, go ahead and sit out. You won't be getting any game checks. He sits out, and who won that battle? It was the Steelers. Yeah. They won that battle pretty easily. I mean, Le'Veon was a shell of himself after leaving Pittsburgh.
Yeah. And they had rookie season James Conner that absolutely tore it up in his replacement. So, yeah.
So I think you got to just, you got to be smart about making those types of demands, because you might end up looking like a fool in the end if you've got a well-run organization that would be the ones either moving off of you or keeping you around. I mean, Le'Veon Bell's now fighting Adrian Peterson for a paycheck rather than being in the NFL.
Literally fighting him.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Boxing him. So I don't know. I don't, it's not like I have a fear that there's going to be too much entitlement with this player empowerment movement, but it's possible, I guess. I guess I'll just kind of leave it at that.
It's not as frequent though either, because we had Brandon Cooks, I think halfway through the season last year, wanted to trade out of Houston, and then he ended up getting it at this offseason, but they're not immediately usually responding to that. They're like, okay, whatever. And he sat out or whatever. And Houston's like, well, we're competing for a 1 pick, so I don't really care.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
It didn't really.
Lovie Smith had a baby.
Had a boy.
Biggest win in Bears history, or that he gave the Bears, was his final game with the Texans. Gotta love it. Right. It's so similar to the Jets winning that game.
Trevor Lawrence.
Against the Jags in the Trevor Lawrence sweepstakes. Like, what are you doing? Of course, it's the Jets and the Texans that are the ones that F that up to go get Trevor Lawrence Trevor Lawrence. And then this year, whoever that number 1 pick will be. It's just so great. And they still might get their guy at number 2 if they're looking at Bryce Young based on the rumors, but we'll get into that as we get a little closer to the draft. But
oh yeah, we'll have some draft previews.
A lot of excitement. NFL offseason never. It's crazy. It used to be like the MLB offseason was, the number one thing, all these transactions. And now the NFL's even taken over the offseason as the number one sport. It's nuts. They're good. They're good. Roger Goodell got that massive extension, and doggone it, he deserves it because from when he joined to what the NFL is now, like it's obviously the number one sport in America by a landslide.
Yeah, and you look at just a quick tidbit here. The Washington Commanders had 2 bids come in for over $6 billion today. So you can tell that there's quite a bit of revenue in the NFL.
One of those buyer groups was led, or maybe not led,
Magic Johnson.
But he was a part of it. Yeah, Magic Johnson was a part of it.
Owns every team, it seems like.
Might as well. Hey, he got money.
Right. Speaking of trades,
you're not losing on that investment. So
no, not at all. Cardinals are shopping DeAndre Hopkins. No surprise to anyone here. They had made that known going into the offseason. And rumor came out this weekend that they're looking for a CMC Christian McCaffrey-esque trade, which Christian McCaffrey was sent to San Francisco from Carolina. Carolina received a 2023 second, third, and fourth round pick, and then next year's 5th round pick. So essentially 2, 3, 4, 5. Do you see that from Hopkins? I mean, CMC, both of these players have had their injury history. CMC is one of the elite running backs when he is healthy, not only rushing the ball, but catching the ball out of the backfield. So he's a multi-facet running back here, where DeAndre Hopkins, yes, he's a solid one, but do you see him worth that many picks? And I guess what would you think a trade package would essentially look like for DeAndre Hopkins, what his value actually is?
Well, what's interesting is DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams are the same age, but
it's crazy.
Devontae Adams hasn't had that same, he hasn't had the injury history that D-Hop had. Hop got popped for PEDs the year before, or the offseason before, I believe, while he was trying to recover from an injury.
Yeah.
Which that's pretty common. I mean, a lot of guys end up taking PEDs for recovery purposes. I don't see, and I'm not saying the Panthers had any leverage really in the CMC sweepstakes, but there were multiple teams going after them. And ultimately the Niners were the highest bidder and were the most aggressive, and it paid off for them where they were able to get him. But I think we can all acknowledge at the time when we saw a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and next year's 5th, we're like, that's a hell of a haul for an often injured running back of all positions as well. Hopkins is facing those injuries. He's 30. I mean, his play hasn't really declined. I wouldn't say that, but how many more years do you think you're getting out of DeAndre Hopkins? I mean, CMC at least is, he's still in his mid 20s, probably 26-ish at this point. So yeah, that feel right. I can look that up in a second here, but you got at least a couple more years out of CMC. Also, Christian McCaffrey, I think, is much more valuable given that you can throw him all over the field. He's basically both a running back and a wide receiver that can play out wide and in the slot. I mean, he's a true do it all type of player.
26 will be 27 at the start of the season.
Okay. So, and Hopkins will be 31 at the start of this season. So, he's born in June. So he'll be 31 at the start of this season. Arizona has no leverage. What's the point of hanging on to him to hang out with? I mean, Colt McCoy isn't even there. I don't even know who their backup is. Are they bringing back, Josh Rosen?
Chart.
I mean, so what's the point of hanging on to him? He's got all these injuries. He's got a massive contract. That's another piece of this where injury prone, big contract, aging. That's pretty much the trifecta for you're not worth as much as you think you are. He might also want a contract extension going forward. for whoever trades for him. And, it just doesn't feel like he's worth anywhere close to a CMC type of package. Arizona, I mean, I know you got to try to rebuild this team, but I say keep dreaming, because if your expectation is a second, third, fourth, and a fifth type of a package for him, like, not going to happen. No chance.
McCoy is still under contract, and at the start of the season, it says right now that the coaching staff is not committed to him as the starter, as they did bring in David Blau.
I thought isn't David Blau isn't he a head? Oh no, I'm thinking of Davis Webb. Just as anonymous.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess ultimately, I don't think that's going to be a type of return that they're going to get, but what teams do you think that could be interested, and what will that winning package end up looking like?
I think the winning package for him, there's probably going to be a couple teams that end up bidding for him and trying to make something happen. So I think it'll end up being probably a little bit more than what he should be worth. Probably, I'd say like a third, and maybe throw in another late round pick or something is what I would think is what he's worth, especially with that 31. We've seen so many wide receivers drop off at that age. I mean, look at AJ Green, Julio Jones. I mean, just some in recent years.
Julio's literally not worth shit at this point.
Yeah, neither is AJ. AJ wasn't even in his last years in Cincinnati.
And they were at their prime, a DeAndre Hopkins type of receiver, a top talent like D-Hop. So those are two great examples.
Yep. As far as teams, the one that jumps off the page to me that I think is Kansas City. I think if he landed in Kansas City, I think I touched on it last week, but I think that would be just an unbelievable fit. They moved off of Juju. Yeah, they still have MBS there, but DeAndre Hopkins, I think, would be so solid there, going, especially with Travis Kelce there. That would be a really, really solid destination for him. Otherwise, I mean, if you're Buffalo, do you kick the tires? Yes, you have Gabe Davis, but he's been so inconsistent in that 2 spot that maybe you match him up with Diggs and put Gabe Davis in that 3rd slot. I
gotta wonder if Stephon Diggs is gonna want that, though.
Yeah,
I mean, the way that when he was in Minnesota, I think one of the things that bothered him was that it was Adam Thielen that was going off for like 14 touchdowns a year, where Diggs was clearly the better receiver, but it seemed to bug him that they had basically, a 1A or a high end B opposite him. And if he is willing to request a trade once, you go and have somebody come in and kind of step on his turf. What's going to stop him from requesting another trade? I guess that'd be my only fear. I would love to see a legit number 2 though in Buffalo, and move Gabe Davis kind of back to that number 3 spot. Cause he's, like you said, he's inconsistent. He's not extremely reliable. One of the teams that I wanted to bring up in particular was the Patriots. They obviously have really no wide receivers. I mean, who's over there? Is Nelson Aguilar still there? Jacoby Myers is gone. He'd kind of been their default number 1 because there's been nobody else to take over that number 1 spot. So there has been some DeAndre Hopkins to New England rumors. However, piece that needs to be considered here, Bill O'Brien is the new offensive coordinator in New England, who was his head coach in Houston, and who would not sign him to a contract extension, and who traded him away to Arizona. So that's the reason why I on paper seems like a money fit. I mean, get Mac Jones a number 1, and even if it is only for a year or 2, at least that's going to help with Mac Jones's development, etc. I think the BOB factor, though, is maybe what could be shutting this idea down, and something that I hadn't thought of until probably an hour and a half before we started recording.
Yeah,
I was thinking that would be a great fit.
Yeah. The other team that might be a solid fit too, I don't know what their cap situation is off the top of my head, but the Giants, they invested a lot in Daniel Jones, and you don't have a number one wide receiver for him. That might be a potential fit. I don't know what their cap looks like at all with that contract they gave him tagging Saquon, but that seems like a team that's desperate to be in win now mode and could definitely use a DeAndre Hopkins.
I think I follow the logic, but in their cap space right now, they have $3.3 million left.
That's not going to cut it.
Don't think you're going to get a DeAndre Hopkins deal done with that.
Backload it, but
see what is killing them. Yeah, you'd have to really, like, maybe the Cardinals soak up half of it and then you sign you restructure it to backload it. But seriously, what's killing them is $14.7 million of Kenny Golladay dead cap money. Otherwise, this would be
greatest
possible.
Free agency signing ever.
Kenny freaking Golladay just is, yeah, that just ended up burning them so hard. Plus, let's not forget that Darren Waller contract is following him from Vegas, and that's not a cheap one either. Plus, I know Daniel Jones, his extension, I believe, his big money at least, does it kick in right away? Because I guess technically he would have been a free agent, right? Because they didn't.
Yeah,
so
he
I
was
guess
a free agent.
So that's gonna kick in right away. You got Saquon a $10 million cap hit. So yeah, they got about $3 million left, and that's before the draft, where they're gonna have to sign all their drafted players. So I think that they're pretty much done. They have to be at this point.
Yeah. Moving into March Madness, speaking of almost done, Gel, it is coming to a close here. We've got Final Four on Saturday, national championship game on Monday. And for the first time in the history of the tournament, since it has expanded, there are not any 1 seeds, 2 seeds, or 3 seeds that made the Final Four. So the highest seed that is there is number 4 seed UConn. Had some awesome games over the weekend. Alabama goes down in the Sweet 16. Houston goes down in the Sweet 16. So there wasn't even a 1 seed that made it to the Elite 8. And we have probably, I would say, arguably the most fun Final Four left of what I can remember, in 3 teams that have never even been there before.
That's the best part.
2 of which, San Diego State and Florida Atlantic, are playing each other. So one of those teams will get to play for a national championship. And then you got UConn and Miami on the other side of the bracket, which UConn has had success in the past, multiple national championships here since the year 2004, I think, with the Mecca Okafor there.
That's an insane, that 04 UConn team.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Awesome.
But in a Miami team with, what's coach's name? Took George Mason there. I'm blanking
Jim
on
Larrañaga.
Jim Larrañaga. Yep. So have 2 teams there on that side of the bracket. They're going to be fighting for the national championship, but just an unbelievable tournament so far.
Let me just cut you off. UConn's 04-05 team, Charlie Villanueva, Josh
Gordon,
Boone, Rudy Gay. You mentioned Okafor, like loaded. Freaking love it.
Just solid. So that was a fun team to watch. I loved watching them. But no, fantastic tournament so far. I mean, any takeaways from any of the games over the weekend? And yeah, I'm pumped. It's going to be awesome, and I'm pulling for San Diego State or Florida Atlantic. I'm going
FAU all the way. Yeah. That's who I'm pulling for. They had never won a conference a March Madness game, any game, even round 1, never won a single tournament game, and now they're in the Final Four. That's just insane. Awesome. Their head coach, Dusty May, in this last game, he's out there rocking jeans on the sideline and some nice polished white shoes. Like, you got to root for that guy as well. That look, like, hell yeah. And also, it seems so weird, like, FAU, that's, I believe, is that Jacksonville, maybe?
Florida Atlantic, Boca.
Oh, right. It's Boca Raton. So, I mean, I don't know. I'd love to see an FAU Miami final and just get the Florida, Florida on as hard as possible. But that's who I'm rooting for. I'll be rooting Miami, FAU. UConn's been playing some absolutely dynamite ball as of late. I mean, they haven't even had even close to a close game yet.
No, I'll have to pour it out for my homie Drew Timmy. Timmer ends up going down in that Elite Eight, and apparently he has said he will not be coming back earlier on this season. So hopefully he has a change of heart. We get to talk about him again this time next year, but does have his COVID year left. We'll see, but it sounds more than likely he's going to be taking his talents elsewhere.
Yeah, what was crazy about that, I guess that game was, and what pretty much, I mean, this Gonzaga team was so freaking reliant on Drew Timmy. He got in early foul trouble. I believe he had 4 fouls. They called him with his third and fourth really early in the second to start off the second half. And it's like, once that happened, I mean, they were already down at half by, I think, 8 or 9. But once Timmy went out early, it was like, they got no chance. They were so damn reliant on him. It's a shame. But, I mentioned this to you before we started. This Gonzaga run over the 2021 and 2023. Was it 2021? I believe so. When they made the title game.
Yeah.
And the Final Four game, Jalen Suggs hits this, about what,
half court ish,
just inside the half court line to win that game and go into and make the championship game. They of course then just get absolutely demolished by Baylor the next game. This year they hit that from the low that 3-pointer from the logo to win and then get demolished the next game. So something about that Gonzaga team, I don't know what it is. It's like they're so close and they just can't get over the hump. It's a bit of a shame.
Load too early, Joe.
What's that?
So they blew their load too early.
Thank you for repeating that.
You're welcome.
I guess my only other major takeaway was just how that Creighton San Diego State game ended, which resulted in that San Diego State player. He was driving. He took a floater from about, what was it? Probably
free throw line.
Around the free throw line. And they called a defensive foul on the shot. That defender had his left hand on the shooter's right hip. I thought at the time it looked like a foul, and the shooter did a great job of selling it. Like he fell to the floor. I thought at the time it seemed like a foul, but you look at some of these close-ups and some of these replays, and was that more of an acting job or was that a legitimate call? And how do you feel about these refs on what you could argue is a 50-50 call, kind of deciding that game? Because that basically put an end to it.
Yeah, I hated it because of the timing, and I just felt like we were robbed of overtime because I really wanted to see overtime in that game. But I think it was the right call. The guy had his hand on his hip. It did alter his shot when he was coming down. Yes, he did oversell it by falling to the ground, I think, but it did alter his shot ultimately. So I think it was the right call. It's just completely unfortunate with the timing of it. We got robbed of potential overtime in that game. I was hoping when he went to the line, he was going to miss both free throws.
Imagine that.
Missed the first one, but then ended up drilling the second one. But I do think it was a tough call for Creighton, but it was ultimately the right call. And you give the refs credit. I mean, that has to be tough in that moment, blowing the whistle and knowing that, hey, I could have just decided the fate of this game, but I do think that they did get it right.
I think it was the right call, but like you said, just kind of sucks. I mean,
yeah. As a fan, it sucks, but it was what was on the court. So,
well, let's move on to the winners here. And let's just do a quick preview of these, of these Final Four games.
Yeah, so I'm going to just kind of go through and run through my picks here. We've got San Diego State matching up against FAU. I'm on the FAU train with you, Joe. I like them in this one. They've been playing some phenomenal basketball, and for whatever reason, San Diego State just seems like they're just kind of creep by Alabama, creep by Creighton in this one. And Florida Atlantic really has been dominating and they've looked good. They're shooting lights out from 3-point range. So I really like them to advance over a slow pace San Diego State, which, by the way, San Diego State, I texted you this over the weekend. First round matchup against College of Charleston that had to be probably the most picked upset game of this entire tournament, and to have
12
them make
over
the Final
5
Four,
at least had to have been.
well, and they were the favorite, I think, of the 5 teams to get
really. I didn't know that.
to get upset. I mean, everyone was picking College of Charleston with them having 5 guys putting up double-digit figures, averaging over 80 points a game. So, yeah, for San Diego State to get there, hats off to you. But I just think Florida Atlantic, they're on some sort of run right now that I don't want to see come to an end. So I think my heart is telling me FAU, and I do think they end up pulling this one out. On the other side of the bracket, UConn Miami is going to just be an absolute slugfest. I'm looking forward to it so much, but this UConn team is just on such a tear right now that I don't see them getting beat. And I think it's going to end up being UConn FAU in the championship game. And unfortunately, I think we're going to see a national champion that has won it before in the UConn Huskies. I want to pick FAU. I hope FAU ends up knocking them off, but UConn just looks unstoppable right now. They really haven't played a close game and I don't know how long, and just absolute domination from them.
Yeah, I mean, at one point, UConn was ranked as high as the number 2 team in the country. They had won 14 straight. I do have UConn beating Miami in the Final Four. I'm, like I said, I'm going to be rooting for the Canes, go you, but for you YouTube viewers. But oh yeah, duh. Yeah. The closed hands. It does ultimately, I do ultimately think they're going to be overpowered here. UConn is just, like you said, they're just rolling so hard. I don't see them going down to a Miami team that's been awesome. But there were also, you mentioned these 12-5 matchups. There were a lot of people that took Drake as a 12 seed over Miami. So, that's just, that's the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. I've also got FAU over San Diego State. I didn't realize this at the time of when I made my picks, but FAU during the regular season was the number 6 scoring team in the country. And that shooting ability has clearly transferred into the postseason. So I really like what FAU's been able to do. And I see them making it to the final against UConn. There's no better team in college basketball, though, right now than UConn. And I think that I don't know this. They may roll. They may stomp FAU or San Diego State if it's SDSU by, a good. It's going to be a double-digit win, I think, for UConn. They haven't had any close games this tournament. They finished the season well. They showed what they were capable of early on in the regular season. They ended up losing at one point, I believe, 6 out of 8 games after they went on like a 14-game winning streak. So they're up and down. They can be streaky, but they're clearly streaking we're going streaking the right way right now and on a pretty major high. So I've got UConn winning it all over FAU. We've got the same freaking results here. Good podcast content.
Oh yeah. Real quick here, Joe, before we transition over to golf, there is talks of the NCAA tournament expanding again. I mean, what are your quick thoughts there? Again, we're getting over to golf here shortly, but what do you think? I know your views obviously on MLB expansion. You feel the same way about this NCAA
and
tournament.
NFL. I just don't think how we're going to make everything as meaningless as possible in the regular season here. I mean, when I think of the Badgers, for example, who shout out to Wisconsin. I know you're rocking that Badger hat.
Oh yeah.
NIT matchup tonight, live on a Tuesday.
North Texas.
Oh God. The mean, what are they? The fighting green or the mean green fighting machine of Denton, Texas. Yeah. I mean, when you saw the Badgers season, they were already a bubble team. They didn't deserve an NCAA tournament bid. I mean, they played like shit this year. They started off fine, but Their second half of the season was garbage. They don't deserve an NCAA tournament bid. Now you're going to extend this out to 96 teams potentially and add an extra round. And what you give the top 4 seeds a first round bye, something like that. I think that's how that math would check out. But or the first, I don't know, top 8 seeds, whatever. We don't need to add. It's already perfect, man. Yeah. It's already perfect. Why are we messing with something that's perfect? When they expanded it to 68 from 64, I mean, at that point, I was against that, but that's not that consequential. It's just 4 playing games on teams that were, kind of teetering, whatever, 4 extra teams that ends up, just 1 per bracket. That's one thing. When you're talking about adding a significant number of teams, what are your bubble teams at that point are going to be, last place in the Big Ten?
Right.
This is
your entire Power 5 conferences are going to all make it pretty much, which what's the point of regular season? Let's just start and have a tournament and be done with it.
That's my whole beef with it. I really hope it doesn't happen. And God damn, if they go to 96 teams, how is it going to be possible to fit that onto a sheet of paper that you print out and you fill it out with a paper and pen? How are you going to be able to even fit that on a piece of paper? Come on. Let's not do this. Let's not do this. It's already perfect. We don't need it. It's completely unnecessary. Nobody says, hey, we need more. I want more March Madness. It's like by the end, you're like, I'm college basketballed out. We don't need to add more. I don't know. I think it's perfect, and it keeps March Madness special and the lead up to it. And it makes your conference tournaments special, because if you go out in round 1, like if the Badgers would have beat Ohio State in round 1, and then maybe if they won their round 2 game in the conference champion or in the conference tournament, they'd probably make it. They were on the bubble, but they got smoked in round 1. Like, what is the point of even the conference tournament if you're going to be, just, hey, let's add 32 more teams? I don't know. I feel like you're just dumbing down the rest of both the regular season, the conference tournaments. Like, we don't need this. It's already perfect. Keep it the way it is. That's it. That's my stance.
I like that you keep saying the word perfect, Joe, because my picks were almost perfect for our Final Four in our March Madness draft. I still have live UConn, FAU, and Miami. So 3 out of the 4 Final Four teams. Absolute domination. You ended the March Madness draft 17 points, and I am at 39 and counting. So
not a great year for me with the March Madness.
Not great.
I don't need more things to screw up. That's also part of it. We don't need more rounds for me to get wrong.
Well, I had to toot my own horn there, Joe, because we're going to get into the Dell Match play here, where you dominated me with your picks last week. Ended up beating me 12-9, but end of an era here. Match play tournament, at least right now, is not being continued over next year in the PGA Tour schedule. It for sure will not be at Austin Country Club, which I think is just a travesty. It's such a fun match play course. Absolutely loved watching on TV. Hole number 12 with the bridge in the background, par 5 downhill, followed up by a drivable par 4 that you have to carry the water the entire time. Just made for awesome match play this weekend. Sam Burns ends up beating out just absolutely worn out Cam Young in the final round, ends up beating him on hole 13, 6-5. We wanted to see Rory versus Scotty in that championship. Ended up getting them in a 3rd place match where Rory got the best of it. But overall, a fun tournament, and I hope that they continue some sort of match play next year. It's a really nice change up from your normal weekly PGA Tour schedule, and it's just fun. It's something different to watch, and hopefully something like this continues next year.
And it's during bracket season too.
Yes.
I mean, you've got March Madness, you've got this event, there was one other, some other tournament going on as well.
NIT.
That's not what it was. God damn you. You fooled me. But it's during bracket season. Like, we're all into it. I thought it was really cool to watch. You see these players, like, I mean, after Cam Young beat Rory in that playoff, you mentioned he was exhausted. You could see it. You could hear it in his post-match interview where he's like, just like a lot of heavy breathing where he's like it was so mentally taxing because he'd never won a PGA Tour event and he was going for it. And he played it, he was like, yeah, Rory's one of the top players in the world, but I showed that I can play with anybody in the world. And he obviously played lights out all weekend, but
yeah,
I'm not surprised that he was just spent by that final round.
Yeah, all four of these guys in the final round played over 100 holes of golf throughout the week. I mean, they start on Wednesday, and then these guys were playing multiple rounds on Sunday. So, I mean, Saturday, Sunday, they're playing multiple rounds, multiple matches. So it is taxing on them, but it's also a different format too, because they're taking chances on holes knowing that, hey, if I fuck up this hole, who cares? I'm down one. It's worth the risk and we'll move on. It's not, oh, I just went down 8 strokes to so-and-so and now I'm screwed. So,
well, the other thing too, Rory was up, had a 2-hole lead through 15 on Sunday, that Sunday morning. I mean, think about how exhausting that was for Young to come back and have to climb that and take chances and hope Rory screws up, which he did. I mean, but of course, obviously extremely exhausting for Young, but Rory just had to win that next hole win that next hole and it would have been over. But Cam Young comes through with a nice little comeback there to end, and then obviously winning it in the playoff on that first playoff hole. That's the other matchup, Scotty Scheffler and Sam Burns. Scotty had a 4-foot putt on the second playoff hole to win it. And he sat there for like 2 minutes and stared at it. And his caddy was like getting on the ground, getting dirty, getting grass stains all over his nice shirt. But he stared at that hole for, it felt like an eternity. If you're right now, arguably the top player in the world. I mean, it's between right now him and Jon Rahm to be the top player in the world. I believe right now Scheffler is ranked number 1.
Yeah.
Don't you just go and hit that ball? I mean, you can't be. You just clearly psych it. I feel like he just psyched himself out. If you're staring at a 4-foot putt for that long, and he missed it.
Did, but for whatever reason, that hole all week had been fooling so many of these golfers. It was one I was tuned into because it was that drivable par 4 13th that a lot of guys were just banging it into that stand behind the green, knowing that it's a man-made object. You get a free drop in front of it. So they're just pounding shots into that and chipping and going for birdie. And there's a lot of guys that miss birdie putts throughout the week on that hole. That's a tricky green. But again, it makes you wonder with that, because like you and I, when we go out and play golf, the longer that I stare at a shot, the more I'm probably going to fuck it up. So it's better, I think, just to kind of, all right, here's what I think it's going to do. All right, here's your opinion on it from my caddy. All right, let's just go out and bang this in and just get done. But
especially because he had a great shot. The shot before, he put it within 4 feet from a ways out. I mean, it's not like it took him a while to get to that 4-foot putt. He hit it from a ways out within 4 feet of the cup. Like, it's like, I don't know. It's like you just go up and just freaking play your ball, man. And then Burns his putt was so clutch to even set up Scheffler to the point where you're talking about him winning the hole and then Burns winning the hole and then them going into that playoff. So, I mean, great finish to that in that third playoff. So then the next hole, Burns sends his drive into a fairway bunker, sends it onto the green. Scotty has a nice drive, middle of the fairway, and just ends up bombing his next shot.
Back of
the like off the green. And then Burns has a nice putt from 15, 20 feet out to end up winning. So, I mean, great finish for Burns, but I think Scheffler, that was.
Yeah, kind of pooped the bed.
Yeah, pooped himself.
Pooped himself. He called the shit poop. Staying in Texas this week for the stop on the PGA Tour, have the Valero Texas Open at TPC San Antonio. Defending champ in this one, JJ Spawn.
Antonio.
JJ Spawn, defending champion. This is a tournament. I'm going to run through some notables here very quickly because I feel like this is one that is either a tune-up for the Masters or it's guys fighting to win that guarantees you a spot in that Masters field. So some of the notables this week got Corey Connors, Ricky Fowler, Tyrrell Hatton, Harry Higgs, Hideki Matsuyama, Taylor Montgomery, Davis Riley, JJ Spawn, Sepp Straka. Assuming that those guys fill out your top 5 there, betting favorites, Gel, or at least a combo of them.
And you got to root for, I think you got to root for Harry Higgs here with his, is he the butt wipes guy?
Yes.
Yes.
Dude wipes. Wipes.
Yeah. Dude wipes. Yeah.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Like that's where my rooting interest is. But yeah, I mean, you pretty much named the guys here. Your top 5 on betting odds. Tyrrell Hatton at plus 1,000. I'm kind of surprised to see him that, as the favorite, just given how shitty he played.
0-for-3 in the match play.
Like, good God, what was that? And we both had Hatton in the final four on that final day.
Yeah.
Brutal. Hatton is your favorite. Corey Connors right behind him. Ricky Fowler as well. Siwoo Kim, who's been playing some really nice golf this year, as your number 4. And then Taylor Montgomery rounding out your top 5 in terms of betting favorites.
Well, time for our picks. We had a week off last week, and we'll have a week off again next week with our Masters. We'll get into that next week with our fun draft. We'll recreate that from last year again. But if you're new to the segment, each week, Jill and I pick a golfer. We started with the Century Tournament of Champions. Once you pick a golfer, you cannot use them again, and you get whatever their strokes are for the week, regardless of if they made the cut. So if they missed the cut at +3, that is what you get, where you have a running total, and you can't pick the same golfer as your opponent. Whoever is in last place gets first pick, which is yours truly. I am currently down 89 to 72. That's minus 89 to minus 72. And the theme of the day, Gel, is the word desperate. I am in desperation mode right now, down 17 strokes. I need to climb back into this one with the Masters coming up. Want to get into a good spot here. So I'm going to also ride with a player that is desperate to get into the Masters, and that is Mr. Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler needs to win this tournament in order to get back to Augusta. So he's been playing some solid golf. He easily could have come out of his grouping last week in Austin. He's been in the mix a little bit down the stretch. He's got a nice streak going of made cuts. Probably just jinxed myself there, but no, I'm gonna ride Ricky. I like his game where it's at right now, and again, he's got a lot of pressure on him this week to get into Augusta, win this tournament, but not a great field out there. So if there's any week he can do it, this might be it.
I like the pick. I mean, he's obviously, a top 3 favorite for a reason. He has been playing some better golf. I mean, so I'm fine with it. I had him, I've already used him up. Otherwise he would have been a tempting pick for me as well this week, but I'm going to, I kind of spoiled it a little bit earlier when I was running through the top 5, and I said Siwoo Kim's been playing some nice golf this season, and he's my pick here. He's just been so steady. You see him in this top 10 constantly, when you're just watching Golf Channel or NBC or CBS, and hashtag none of them are sponsors. And God, imagine if NBC was a sponsor. That would be so fit. That would not be fitting at all. But he's been, when they're just going through the rundown, through the leaderboard, it's Siwoo Kim is never too far down. And again, maybe he doesn't win it, but I think slow and steady may win the race for me, given that I've got a 17-stroke lead here. So I'm gonna ride it, and I'm gonna go with just, again, solid player. He's gonna make the cut. He may be there on Sunday in contention, and maybe he's gonna be at the lead when we get through Sunday or to Sunday and going into that final round. So I'm just gonna ride the steady golf train here.
Yeah, no, which absolutely up 17. That's what I would be doing too. Just picking the guys that, you're going to make the cut, put up a solid number, and have a good chance to win. So absolutely. Well, that'll wrap up this episode. We can be found at Dead Arm Sports, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on Facebook at Dead Arm Sports. Go to YouTube, type in that URL bar YouTube. That's youtube.com. And then go to that search bar, Dead Arm Sports. Subscribe, click the bell there. That way you know when our live episodes drop. We monitor that chat. You can ask us any questions. If you do miss out on asking us questions there, do not fear. You can ask us on our socials. Hit us up at Dead Arm Sports, at DosGel, at DosJPEG. We'll be sure to respond. Or if we like your question, we'll put it on our next podcast and give you a shout out. So make sure you send us our questions. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your favorite listening platform. Send us a screenshot and we will swag you up. Gel, what are those platforms?
I'm sitting here laughing because, you search Harry Higgs on Google, go to his images, and it's just him with his shirt off, whipping his shirt around at the Phoenix from last year. The old dude wipes shirt. What was the question? Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. I've never done this before. iHeartRadio and Google Pods. Season 3, goddamn. Find us on YouTube. Just search Dead Arm Sports. If you are on YouTube, you can look at our handy dandy DAS mugs, our DAS Yetis. If you are interested in purchasing one, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up in the DMs, and we can get you one. These are not going to be free. That cost a prettier penny than the stickers that we will give you.
Maybe we'll have a promo later on though.
But we can get something. We'll try to get something in the works for some of our top listeners and see what we can do for you. I guess that's all the hits.
Sounds good.
Derailing is right. Damn.
Again, we'll be back tomorrow. Have a MLB focused episode. It's all MLB. So hopefully everyone is as jacked as we are for the season to kick off on Thursday. Everyone's hopes are high. We're going to shut you down with our picks and let you know why your team's probably not going to win a World Series. But hey, there's always the hope. Joe, close her out. FAU. FAU. FAU.